20th meeting of the Plymouth Township Zoning Hearing Board. I would have us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, but the Township Council stole our flag. So,
think about your allegiance to the American flag. Okay.
with that, we have a few housekeeping items. You want to do pre first?
Yeah, let's do that first. The chair is recused from the PREET matter, so I'll address these comments to the other three members of the Zoning Hearing Board. PREET was continued on the record to tonight. We have not yet obtained a date certain to continue hearing that matter. So what we'll do tonight is I will make a motion for your consideration to continue it to our next regular meeting, December 18th, 2023. And in the interim, Joel Rowe will send out a poll seeking available dates in January for everybody to be able to attend, to be able to continue to hear that case. So at this time tonight, it's appropriate to make a motion to continue the application of PREET for the Plymouth Meeting Mall project to December 18th, 2023 at the Greater Plymouth Community Center at 7 o'clock p.m. Is there such a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Solicitor.
And is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Outstanding. We have 2 seconds. Perfect. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, that matter is continued. Mr. Chairman, you are now back in the chair.
Okay, so let's start with 1925 Johnson Road. And they have requested a continuance on this case until the December 18th meeting because apparently the applicant is out of town. Is that correct?
Emergency, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what we have to do is open the case.
Correct, Mr.
Solicitor?
Chairman. I would suggest a motion to open the application of Gerald H. Miller Jr. for 1925 Johnson Road and to immediately continue it to December 18th, 2023 at the Greater Plymouth Community Center at 7 o'clock p.m.
Do you have such a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that is continued.
Excellent.
So the next matter is the EQT Exeter Pool 3 Office PA. And Mr. Solicitor,
The board received correspondence dated November 2nd, 2023 from Deborah Shulsky, Esquire, representing EQT Exeter / Pool 3 Office PA LLC, which was granted relief to operate a hospital use back on November 21st, 2022. The correspondence says that the owner of the property has been marketing the property for a prospective hospital user, and additional time is needed. They are requesting an extension of 12 months from November 21st, 2022, to allow that to occur and to allow the owner to obtain a building permit or a use and occupancy permit pursuant to Section 2108 of the zoning ordinance. I guess the question is there anybody here on this matter? Oh,
Yes.
okay. The board generally likes to hear from the requester and get an idea of why they want their extension.
Sure.
and who are you?
My name is Kimber Wolfson from Riley Wright, Burt Holland, and Carl Greco. And with me tonight is Tom Meehan from EQT Exeter, the applicant.
Will he be testifying?
No, I think we're
Okay.
fine with just giving a brief summary if that's okay
Sure.
with you guys. And to the extent you have any questions or you'd like to hear, we're happy to give that information. But that was summarized eloquently, thank you. As you mentioned, we are here to request a 12-month extension of a prior special exception approval. And just to reorient the board and give a brief summary, last November, the board approved EQT Exeter's special exception request regarding the permission to operate a hospital facility use at their property at 525 through 527 Plymouth Road, which is the office/laboratory zoning district. Since then, EQT Exeter has been diligently pursuing an agreement with prospective users to operate the approved use on the property. However, it has not been able to finalize terms with an operator due to market conditions and ongoing contractual negotiations. As you know, and as was mentioned, Section 2108 of the zoning ordinance provides that a decision in order from the board pertaining to special exceptions expires if the applicant fails to obtain a building permit or a use and occupancy permit within 1 year from the date of the decision in order, unless otherwise specified by the board. So tonight, EQT Exeter is requesting that the board extend that prior approval from last year to operate a hospital facility use on the property for 12 months. That would be to November 21st, 2024, which would give our client enough time to finalize negotiations and to have the tenant apply for permits to operate the approved hospital facility use. So that's where we are now. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to help.
Mr. Higgins?
No question.
Mr. Daly?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you still working with Haven?
We're working with Haven. There's been other inquiries as well of very similar use. I don't know if they're competitor kind of relationships, but also still with Haven, yes.
Okay, I got the impression last year that Haven was going to be the definitive tenant.
We were hoping we'd already be there by now.
Okay. That's it, thank you.
Mr. Crilly?
Just a question, did we already approve that?
Yes.
Right? Did we approve it based on Haven being the tenant?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't believe it was conditioned upon.
No.
any specific-
We have the decision here, and I apologize if I misspoke earlier and said a variance. This is a special exception.
'Cause most of our diligence was on Haven.
Right. For land use approvals and zoning, that approval runs with the property, I'll say. So to the extent any new user comes in, they would be subject to all the conditions and the approval that would occur last year. So it's based off of the running with the property. But again, everything that was mentioned.
I understand
Yeah.
that, it's just the approval was based on Haven's
Right.
business model and how they
Yes.
ran their business.
Right.
And the new user would have to comply with the same use and conditions that the
But
board
they
is
would
Conditions,
have to
Haven.
come in here and allow us to do diligence on it, is that correct?
Only if it's a different use. For the same approved use with the same condition, they would be able to operate with the approval that runs with the property.
But they'd have to comply with the conditions. And one of the conditions happens to mention Haven Behavioral Hospital of Philadelphia complying with all applicable local, county, state, and federal laws, regulations, or ordinances regarding the operation of a hospital, a mental health or behavioral health hospital, and the employment training certification and retention of staff and medical professionals. So whether it's Haven or another operator, they would have to comply.
Exactly, yeah. All the same conditions and the approval would have to comply with the new tenant. Exactly.
Okay, any more questions?
Thank you. I just want to reiterate what my colleague, Mr. Crilly, said. We specifically looked at Haven.
Right.
And had in the findings of fact, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points that were specific to Haven. And part of the decision, and I understand it's a land use decision and I'm with the land, was that it was Haven who was the operator because of what they represented to this board.
Oh, right, you're right. And to be clear, the new tenant would, again, I mean, it's the use that would carry over, and to the extent that there's any, major differences, they would have to come back. But the approval, we're requesting an extension of what you have approved prior. So basically it's extending all the conditions that were, approved last November, continuing another year. And if anything different, if the new user comes in and they expand greatly or it's different from a hospital use, we would have to come before the board again and request a special exception.
Sure, I mean, we specifically had things like the PowerPoint presentation from Haven.
Right.
What they were going to do.
Right.
It wasn't the owner coming in saying, I'd like to use it for this use, so.
Right.
I do understand, again, that it does run with the land, but I just wanted to be clear that, we did base it upon Haven and their testimony, much more so than anything else.
Right. And again, the new tenant would have to comply with everything that was required in that. So, like, you know, to the extent that there's any major differences, we would have to come before the board again. But the approved use and the conditions and the general compliance of the testimony would have to be complied with if you extend this approval.
I don't know if there's a technical situation with respect to the use being approved, that going with the land, because I think even though the decision was made that the use was approved based on testimony of Haven or, you know, information provided by Haven, I think irrespective of that, the approval goes with the property. If there's a way for you to attach a condition that any user would have to appear before the township, we're okay with that. Like, we're not trying to like substitute somebody else in front of you. I think you'd get comfortable with anybody we go with, because, you know, they would have to get state approvals, county approvals, et cetera. So
I don't think the issue of whether it's Haven or whether it's not Haven is before the board. The relief that was granted is all in the decision. The decision says what it says, and it was based on specific testimony. It's up to the board whether they want to grant a one-year extension of that relief or not, and let's let the chips fall where they may with regard to whether it's Haven or somebody else. And if it's somebody else, then maybe this decision is not applicable because it was all based on Haven. But tonight we're not here to figure that all out. This is just, do you want to give them another year to get their use and occupancy or building permit, zoning permit?
Right, and understood, and if they do deviate from this, then they might have to come back.
They might have to come back, yep.
correct.
Yep.
Relief, so that's the general question of, do we give them another year?
So can we propose extending it for another year as long as the same user is applicable? If the user changes, they gotta come back and we gotta vet the new user.
Right.
And
Well,
he
that's
just said he's
essentially
okay with that.
That's essentially the request, is to comply with what has been approved, the testimony.
If the user changes, it's a different user.
I'm okay with what you're
Okay.
suggesting.
He's saying something different. He's
I
saying
don't
if we
know.
comply
That's
what's
right.
in there.
Yeah.
I'm saying if
don't-
the user changes.
Yeah, I think where we're getting a little confused is, I don't know if you can give the approval subject to a specific user. You guys probably know that better than I do. I'm not trying to get one user substituted for another. I'm fine, as I mentioned. I just want to make sure if there's a decision made about the approval, that the approval holds, if that makes sense.
It's legal.
I would suggest that if the board wishes, that it entertain a motion to grant a one-year extension to EQT Exeter/Pool 3 Office PA LLC of the November 22nd, 2022, November 21st, 2022 decision in their matter, conditioned on the tenant being Haven Behavioral Hospital of Philadelphia. And if it's not Haven Behavioral Hospital of Philadelphia, that the applicant must come back in with a new special exception application.
We don't have to grant any extension either.
Or you don't make that motion and it expires and they have to come back in
The
anyway.
extension, then Haven is Haven still the front runner for the space? Doesn't sound
I
like.
hesitate to say they're a front runner, given we're back here a year later. I'm
Okay,
frustrated that I'm
gotcha.
here before you again.
So they're the cause.
I think there's a good potential outcome for a similar type of use, and one of those is with Haven. I wish I could give you more specifics. I wish I had more specifics, but the market is very
I
fickle.
mean,
right
we
now.
interviewed specific personnel, their backgrounds. You're changing users. They're not the same people.
Right. That's all.
That's
Right.
where it's coming from.
And don't say the use is the same, because while the use as a hospital or mental health facility might be the same, the facts that gave rise to the decision were specific to Haven. And perhaps if another user had come in and given different testimony about the way they operate, the board wouldn't have granted the relief. So again, I'm not convinced that This runs with the land, and it would cover any user that's not named Haven. Because one of the conditions is that it's operated in conformity, substantial conformity with the decision and with the testimony and evidence given to the zoning hearing board.
And if you do recall, we had to have two hearings because of the information that was provided didn't answer all of our questions at the first hearing.
So
Right.
again, if you want to, if you're feeling inclined to grant the extension based on Haven, we would be happy for that to be the outcome today, because we do want to continue that conversation as well.
In other words,
Yeah,
granted, conditioned on it being Haven.
Yeah.
And if it's not Haven, they have to come back for special exception.
Sure. I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we grant an extension of the approval for a special exception for hospital use of 525 and 527 Plymouth Road to EQT Exeter Pool Free Office, Pennsylvania. To extend that through to November 21st, 2024, as long as the proposed operator of the hospital facility remains Haven Behavioral Services.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's have a vote. Mr. Higgins?
In favor.
Mr. Daly?
In favor.
Mr. Aprillo?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Hopefully you'll get them lined up, and if not, you can come back.
Let's come back.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is 26 Arch Road.
Yeah, we're going to do 26 Arch Road. 26 Arch Road next.
Yes. Do the honors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the application of James Brent Teal, T-E-A-L, 26 Arch Road, Plymouth Meeting, PA 19462. This is an application for a variance from Section 1908.1 of the Plymouth Township zoning ordinance to allow the installation of a shed that measures 10 feet by 16 feet, where a 12-foot by 12-foot shed is the maximum permitted. This property is zoned B as in boy residential zoning district. And I believe the applicant, Mr. Teal, is in the room.
Do you want to be sworn in? You're going to testify and sworn and explain what you want to do?
Yes, sir, sure.
Okay.
State your full name for the record.
James Brent Teal,
Spell your last name, please.
T-E-A-L.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
So you want to explain to the board and the public what it is you want to do?
Yes, sir. So, we wish to replace the existing 6x8 shed that's sitting next to my garage with a 10 by 16 shed in the basically caddy corner at the other end of the property. 5 foot off the rear property line and 12 foot off the side property line.
How far off the,
5 foot. The minimum is 4. So
5 foot off the what property line?
The rear property line.
Rear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and was there another dimension that you gave?
12 foot off the side property line that is next to it. It's in the corner.
Side property, okay.
And basically the reason is my brother-in-law was giving me the shed. He's replacing the shed with a steel structure, and it happens to be 10 by 16. And for a, even a 12 by 12, it's a significant, $6,000-7,000 expense. So I would like to go with the shed that he is giving me. And $800 to get it moved is much cheaper than $6,000 or $7,000 to buy it new.
Anything else?
And the old shed, of course, will be removed.
Let's see, do we have any questions, Mr. Higgins?
Any, our neighbors are okay with this?
I haven't heard any complaints about anything, sir.
Mr. Daly?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will the height of the proposed shed be 12 feet, the standard permitted?
Yes, sir. I did measure, I don't remember the exact measurement, but I had that concern, and I went to my brother-in-law's and we measured it, and it was under that 12 foot.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Mr. Aprilli?
Yeah, I mean, it looks okay. I just had a question on the impervious. You're at 34.6 with your calculations.
Yes.
How did you get that?
The square footage of the house, the square footage of the garage and of the driveway, and then the back patio.
And the new shed?
I didn't count the existing shed, because that is being.
Right, because you just used the new shed.
Oh, yeah, yes, the
Right,
new
right.
shed, of course.
The building, what's the footprint of the building, the house? That's the only thing not on here.
It's basically rectangular. That should be on the site plan.
Did I miss it?
I didn't see it.
That's not on there.
Seems like you're right.
That's the only thing. Thanks, I did have right there.
Probably is.
Yeah, because it's only the first floor footprint, but this is a rancher.
Yeah, but it's not that big.
Yes, this is basically the footprint here.
Right,
Yeah,
but
I
we didn't see any
understand.
dimensions.
I'm just trying to add it up to make sure your numbers are
Oh.
of course, that's all.
It's like 1,700 square feet.
Okay, no more questions.
Okay. I just had a couple of quick things. I mean, you explained why it's the size that it is.
Yes, sir.
What are you going to store in it?
My lawn tractor, other lawn implements, some, tools and yard tools, that kind of thing.
I mean, it's a pretty big jump from 48 to 160 square feet.
Yeah. The existing shed is kind of for yard stuff. I have a push lawnmower in there, and that pretty much takes up a lot of the room, so it's very limited. And then there's a bunch of other things in my garage.
Well, you have,
It's kind of,
I'm sorry.
with the lawn tractor in the garage and other things, it's like not very usable other than just to store things in. So I can't use it as a workshop or anything like that.
Will you have utilities in there?
Yes, sir. In the garage.
Oh, in the garage, but I'm saying in the shed.
No, shed.
Yeah, there's no utilities in the shed.
Electric service?
No. Yeah, it's just gonna be pretty much storage.
The only other thought I had was you're 5 feet off the fence in the rear. Your neighbor behind you is okay? Is there going to be looking at the shed?
He has a 6-foot privacy fence, so as far as I hadn't checked it.
All right, I have nothing further. We're just listening.
No residential use of the shed at all?
Oh, good lord, no.
Oh, that, just need to ask, and
There
no,
might be some rabbits living under it.
and no commercial use of the shed? No use of the shed for a business use of any kind?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on this application? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman. We grant a variance from Plymouth Township zoning ordinance number 342 as amended, Article 19, Section 1908.1, for installation of a 10-foot by 16-foot shed where a 12-foot by 12-foot shed is allowed. Property located at 26 Arch Road in B residential zoning district, to be done in substantial conformity with the testimony of the exhibit this evening.
We have the second. Vote, Mr. Higgins. Mr. Daly.
In favor.
Mr. Aprile.
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Good luck with the shed.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Next is 408 Manor Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the application of Ryan Peterson and Atlas Realty Solutions, LLC, for a variance from Section 1908C of the zoning ordinance to allow the installation of an asphalt driveway up to the property line where a minimum of a 4-foot setback is required. Again, the property is 408 Manor Avenue in Plymouth Meeting, and it's zoned C residential district. We have the applicant here, and we may have some interested parties as well.
So,
Will you be sworn in?
yes.
Your name, please?
Ryan Peterson?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? So help you God? Thank you.
My name is Ryan Peterson. This is my business partner, Carl Olenizak. We are both managing members of Atlas Realty Solutions. Does he need to be sworn in too?
If he's going to say anything, yes.
Sure. Carl Olenizak, last name's E-J-N-I-C-Z-A-K.
You gotta spell that one more time.
Sure. O-L
EJ.
E-J-N-I-C-Z-A-K.
Got it. Carl.
Do you solemnly swear-
C-A-R-L?
C-A-R-L, yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you want to explain to the board and the public what you'd like to do?
Sure. A little bit about our company, Atlas Realty Solutions. Our mission is to lead a revitalization project in Bucks and Montgomery counties to add value to the community via investment in local properties and inspire healthy communities. Our property, 408 Manor Ave, was purchased at Montgomery County Sheriff's Sale. We have been renovating the interior and exterior of the house with the intention to bring the property to market in about 30 days. With our current price point, we believe it will be a highly desirable home in the neighborhood for a new family. Our goal, part of the initial goal, was to install a driveway to allow the new owner to have a place to park off-street like many of the other residents in Plymouth Township. We feel this makes sense to have off-street parking as the property will be more desirable. If someone is looking at a home, property A and property B, let's say it's in Norristown and one has a driveway, one doesn't have a driveway, it would make more sense they would go after the house that would have the driveway. We also believe off-street parking is safer for families with kids, allowing families to load and unload items and family members without traffic in and around if they're parking in the street.
And this specific property, it's a rather tight street with one side parking right now. So this would allow the street to be freed up considerably by taking one vehicle off the road overall.
There's an apron there for the driveway to be installed, ready to go. Like many residents on Manor Ave adjacent to our properties, they have off-street parking that I would assume currently impedes on the current zoning code. The other addresses are listed on the application: 416 Manor, 418 Manor, 420 Manor. They all have driveways that touch their neighbors' property boundaries.
What were those addresses?
416 Manor, 418 Manor, and 420 Manor. Those properties all have driveways that touch the property boundaries. You will also find the photos in the filing as well, listing out. One thing to note, this does not exceed township impervious percentages. We would be conforming under the 35% in the C residential district. As a note, we have also replaced every sidewalk tile out front of the house for safety reasons. We want to make sure this property is a nice addition to the township when we're done interior and exterior renovations.
The township generally requires that,
Correct.
so you're just complying with the ordinance.
Yes.
I mean, but we have a sidewalk and a curb ordinance in the township, so.
Yeah, they're fully.
You'd have
taken
to
care of
do that
already.
anyway.
Yeah,
Taken care of.
we took care of all that, yeah.
Understood. But,
Yep, thank
Yeah.
you.
Add anything?
There is a park directly across the street from this property too. So that, there is a parking lot, but there is some traffic. We've noticed that occasionally cars would park there. And this allows the homeowner to park in their individual property, park their vehicle. And most residents on the street do seem to have vehicles on the street.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Yeah.
Okay, let's ask if these folks, we usually ask at this point whether anybody else wants to become a party to this matter. Now, that doesn't mean, you don't have to become a party to make a comment to the board, to the zoning hearing board. So if you just want to comment, that's fine, and you should take that opportunity when the chairman asks for public comment. But your immediate neighbors, both of you. All right, well, I guess it's appropriate to ask for public comment.
Didn't ask questions.
Oh, all right, you want
Well, let's ask
to have board
questions.
questions for
Board
the applicant,
questions.
and then we'll ask for public comment, okay?
Mr. Higgins,
No question.
Mr. Daly.
How recently were thank you, Mr. Chairman, how recently were the driveways installed in the other properties that you've shown, do you know? Or they've been there?
I believe those addresses you're speaking about, the 416, 418, and 420, they don't look like brand-new pavement to me. The pictures that I've shown, specifically B, on the one picture, looks like a very old A looks very recent, in my opinion, when I'm looking at the pictures. And C, I would say, it's,
Somewhere in between.
yeah, somewhere in between.
I think it's important that in order to repave a driveway, you do not need a permit. So these driveways could have been here for a very long time.
Okay.
And new, one that looks newer could have just gotten redone without a permit.
And this is an investment property, correct? Is it, or is it one you intend to rent, or is it one you intend to sell?
This one will be coming to market to sell in about 30 days.
All right, those are, the only question I have. Thank you.
Mr. Aquila.
Yeah, see, my Google doesn't show a curb cut here. Where's the property line? Where's the picture of where you want your driveway to go? That's not in here, right?
It is. There's a reference to the drawing. It's this here, and the
I
proposed.
mean, like, you see, you went and took these nice pictures. Where's
Yep.
the picture of yours?
We do not have a picture of there. The
Is there
only
any
one we
reason
have
why
is,
you don't have a picture of yours?
right now
That's
it's,
the most important document you can have here.
right now it's grass, on that side of the property. So the only picture we have is the aerial photo in blue
See,
with
that's
the
what
little
I'm saying.
pinpoint.
Would you go out there? That's different than Google Earth.
Well, that's what I went out and took a picture of.
So you had to get approval to do that curb cut, correct?
Correct.
And the township gave you that approval?
Yeah, that is just part of the normal permit process, doing the sidewalk tiles, doing the curb. They came out and marked what was damaged and what needed to be repaired, so we filed a permit to replace that.
But that didn't answer the question about the curb cut.
The curb cut, not the
Yeah,
sidewalk,
right.
the curb cut.
Yes, the curb cut was installed by us, correct?
Approval.
Yes. We did not sit before a.
Yeah, that permit does not come across me. That
That's
goes to,
not part of zoning.
that
Can
goes-
we just give those approvals out? Like, if
Yeah.
that's
That
a
goes-
state road, you'll never get that approval.
that goes to Chris Lasciavo, the head of Public Works, and he deals with it. I don't even see it. I don't even know what happened.
That's,
Okay.
In-
that wasn't
until-
any approval
Yeah.
through the board or any, it was just a normal permit we filed, they approved it, they came out to do the inspections, correct?
So let's see yours. It looks like that's a new block,
Oh, yeah, they've all new concrete,
but that's this side.
but their house has all new concrete.
Right, so what I'm saying is, that curb cut looks a lot wider than where the property line should be. I can't tell.
Well, you got a hedge line here too.
No, this hedge isn't trimmed. That hedge is trimmed.
That was trimmed. This is more recent.
Okay. So how close to the house do you come when you pull a car in? Do you expect to come?
How close to the house, right now, we're measuring an anticipation of a 10 foot by 20 foot, which would give us 2 feet of clearance approximately. There's 12 feet right now from the house to the property line.
Oh, so you're not even proposing to go up to the property line?
We want to give a little bit, as he mentioned, relief away from the house, so when you're coming up, the car isn't touching the edge of the house. We do propose to bring the driveway up to the property line.
Okay, so the driveway is proposed to start 2 feet off of the house, your house, and go all the way to the property line.
Go to the property line.
Okay,
and
so
go
the 2
inward.
feet, see, this looks like the 2 feet is on the other side of the house. Or does that say 20 feet? I'm sorry.
Like the drawing.
That's 20 feet.
The drawing says 10 feet. 10
Right.
feet's attaching the house, it's touching the house.
Yeah, it's touching the house.
Right now, we have a little bit extra, as I mentioned, there's 12 feet of measurement from the property line to the house. So the drawing with that line going right up to the edge of the house is heavy on that line, but we don't anticipate doing that. We want to go from the edge of the property line up to the house. That way your car isn't touching the edge of the corner of the house when you pull in. The front bumper, the front right corner of the house.
Okay, so you want to start the driveway 2 feet off the house and go to the property line,
Go to the property line.
the side property line. Okay.
If I read this correct, you're required to have 4 feet from the property line.
The side property line. They're going to have 0 feet.
So you're gonna have
That's
zero.
the,
Right.
that's the variance.
That's the relief we're seeking.
Right.
I I get it. So I guess my question is, why wouldn't you have the 2 feet on the property, on the other property side? You still could bring the car over off, you'll just be closer to grass. You have 2-foot grass or 2-foot something there. You're gonna have that car right on the property line. When they open the door, are they gonna, whose property are they getting out on? Your property or next door's property?
Well, 10 feet is wide. That's a common parking spot when you pull into a supermarket, a store. You're pulling into normally a 10-foot by 20-foot, sometimes 10-foot by 18 feet. And you step out, you're not stepping out into the neighbor's parking stall. You're stepping out into your stall. Normal cars are approximately 6 feet wide, so you do have room when you reference stepping out onto potentially the neighbor's property. I would say that's not accurate.
I just asked you, which way, when you come out of the car, it wasn't accurate or not. It
Okay.
was,
If you're
are
pulling
you on
in,
your property or the next door's property?
You're on our property.
Yeah, you would be
Get
on
out.
your property if you're
Get out of the
pulling
way.
in. Correct.
And there's no thought about having the 2-foot buffer on the alternative side?
At this time, we want to propose it going up to the property line, so that way the car has a little bit of relief from the house. So that way there's no,
And the driveway is not gonna touch the house anymore, like your picture, like your drawing shows?
we want to propose 10-foot by 20-foot. So that will start at the property line and go to where the 10-foot ends, which will not touch the house.
So this drawing in your application is not accurate, is that true?
That is true.
No more questions.
9 foot, 9 feet.
I have a follow-up question, if I may.
Sure.
Are you going to, would the installation of the driveway, as you requested, require the removal of that hedge that's on the left-hand side?
Yes, that hedge, yes, will be removed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I just have a few questions. If I'm reading this correct, the parking space in the township has to be 9 feet by 18 feet.
Correct.
So if you reduced your parking space to 9 feet, and you could have 3 feet of side yard and only need a variance for 1 foot of asphalt, and that would be limiting your variance and still complying with a 9 by 18 or 9 by 20. You do 9 by 20, I don't care about that. But you're only, the ordinance only requires you to have a 9-foot wide parking space. So if you reduced your parking space to 9 feet and you had it up against the house, then you would have 3 feet, and you'd only be off from the required side yard by 1 foot. And that's much more compliant than a 10 by 20 that's on the property line.
That's something we could consider.
We have looked at the other properties on Manor Ave, the referenced addresses, the way they're situated, and we feel allowing somebody to have a space that's enough room for them to get out of the car and not have to be pulling up and potentially being within inches of the house is something that we would want to offer somebody as they're coming in to view our house, potentially to buy, if they had a little bit more room. So the proposal we have and running the numbers on the impervious would still be within requirements under that 35%. I
Oh, I
understand what you're saying. So it's
And I
definitely a
understand what you're
thought.
saying, and the other houses are different, they've been there a long time, and who knows, I mean, they could very well predate the zoning ordinance, given the apparent age of the houses in that little area. And I do appreciate what you've done, it looks like you've done a great job cleaning up this house, it looks nice, it's clean.
Thank you.
It's,
Thank you.
you know,
Yeah, it's almost, we're coming to the home stretch.
So, but I just,
That's part of our mission statement, revitalization through the townships and local communities. So we pride ourselves in that.
and I appreciate all that, but I'm just looking at, I don't know what the rest of the board's inclined, and we have not heard from the public, but I'm just looking at this thing, if you did a 9-foot wide driveway, which is what's required, and you had it up against the house, because you're already gonna be close to the house anyway, you know, then you have a buffer for your neighbor of 3 feet where 4 feet's required, and you know, you're awful close then. That's just my
Sure.
thinking out
Sure.
loud.
Thanks for sharing the feedback.
I have no further
Well,
comments.
I don't know if Mr. Aprile asked the specific actual question. Could you move it to the other side?
That side of the property is tighter. There's a sidewalk that runs there, and the property dimensions I do not have listed on here.
Right.
It's a little tighter there. There's also a gas meter on the front right corner of the property that we would like to stay away from. So after a survey and looking at the property, we decided it would be best suited on the left side.
Put the curb cut in already.
Yeah, well, I'm not concerned about that. They did that without getting this approval first. I'm just looking for an alternative here. Or minimizing the relief required by making a 9-foot driveway and having it 1 foot off of the property line where 4 feet is required instead of 0 feet off of the property line where 4 feet is required. Okay. Mr. Chairman, if you want to ask for public comment.
You're here, would you like to?
Yeah, come on up and
please.
identify yourselves for the record, please.
Yeah, come on,
Yeah, you can sit in the front row here, yeah.
I didn't have those guys come up because she was handicapped.
No,
That was-
no worries. My name is
Be sworn in. and-
how are you? Dan Nolan,
Swear your last name.
Nolan, 412 Manor Ave.
Raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And
Alex Dotsman, 404 Manor Ave,
spell your last name, please.
DOTZMAN,
And you're for what?
404 Manor Ave.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
So, thank you guys for taking the time. I'm 412 Manor, so I'm the property line that's gonna run up against. So, first, the curb cut out. I was kind of shocked to see that go in before, and I thought that would be part of the driveway approval process. I didn't know that you could just get a curb cut without the driveway. I have 2 young kids. My son's bedroom's right on the corner of that house. I think it was a different situation. We knew the tenant that was gonna move in there. We knew their car. We knew what the family dynamic, the family situation was. I potentially would be more open to it, but where it's gonna sit is close to where my exit of my front porch is. I have 2 kids. I have a child that's 6, baby that's 1.5. My fear is they can now come out and there's just gonna be a car literally right when they pretty much come out of that front patch of grass that I have. And then from there, it's, how they're gonna turn in. If you turn in coming down Manor Ave towards Ridge Pike, and you cut that a little sharp, you're now coming onto my property. If you jump that curb, which people do when they pull in, we don't know the size of the car that's gonna be actually used in that property, so yes, we put in a 9x10, 9x20. Guy's a big Jeep or Ford Bronco guy. Now he's stretching over his driveway and his wheels are in the grass or onto my property line. Then how do we come back and kind of argue that side?
Well, let me ask you, let's say they had a Prius
Yep.
and you saw that and no problem, that's fine, it's a little car, there's no way it's going to be a problem. Then they move out and someone moves in with a Bronco.
Very true. But I'm not going anywhere, so.
I understand, but
These interest rates are pretty incredible, so I'm gonna probably be at 412 Manor a long time. So I don't know, you're right. You're right. I don't
my
know.
point is, you're saying it might be all right if they had a small car,
It might be.
but I don't know, so it's not all right. Well, they might have a small car to begin with and then buy a big car.
Agreed, so I don't know. So yeah, so the fear is that big car could come, so that's why I'm kind of here tonight. Yeah, it's a tight neighborhood. A lot of the driveways that are there, shared driveways, they're driveway to driveway. They've been there for years. My driveway, I have another half of a lot, so my driveway was there when I moved in. But I think I have the 4 feet on my side. There is, I guess, old alleyways that used to come onto the Manor Ave and Black Horse property that some people in the neighborhood do use, so they have rear entrances into driveways that are a little bit safer and easier. But yeah, I don't feel completely confident or comfortable with not knowing who the tenant is or what the situation is to kind of put a driveway pretty much right onto my property line.
It'll be an owner.
Yeah.
They're going to sell it,
Yeah.
so it's not a tenant.
Yeah, well, Could
Property.
be somebody else buys it and then they rent it, so that would be. a different
That's
way.
always a possibility. You
Right.
could do the same thing with your property.
Right. So as much as everyone's looking for value for their property, I'm also thinking long-term for my property. I want to hold value of my property, and not having a driveway there is obviously more curb appeal and presence than having a car right on the street, right on my property.
Do you have any evidence that it'll decrease the value of your property, considering that others in that neighborhood also have driveways that come up to the property line?
Right, that's what makes mine unique in the town, in the neighborhood. Because I have the half lot. Me and that neighbor, over time, I guess a half lot was presented. I have one of the bigger yards in the neighborhood. That's what made me excited to purchase it. I've been there for 7 years as well. It's not like I didn't just get there and try to stop. Business of success. They have done, I would be the first to put my hand up, they've done a fantastic job turning the house around, so.
Do you know who used to live there
Where?
in the house?
408.
408, yes.
408. Did they have a car?
Yes,
Where did they park it?
right out front,
Out front on the street.
on the street. There's no
They,
curb cut.
they didn't, there was no curb cut. They didn't have a driveway or a garage or anything like that.
They had a shed at one point in the back that was like a lawn shed.
But they couldn't pull a car in there?
No.
Okay. Looking at the block that you're on,
Yes.
You have a driveway?
Correct,
Okay. 4, 16, 18, and 20 have driveways.
correct.
Is 408 the only one on the block that doesn't have a driveway?
No. If you go down the street, there's multiple houses, actual townhouses. or-
Townhouses.
Or duplexes that
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
have driveways.
duplexes.
These are all single family.
These are singles.
Yeah, so the street's a mix of duplex and townhouse. I mean, the neighborhoods, I know my house was 1920, it was built, and most of the people, just from talking to the original owners, I mean, they were all close-knit families back then. Most of the shared driveways were, relatives' homes.
Do you have a driveway?
I do, but mine is not on Manor Ave, mine is on Coleman Ave. I have a corner lot.
Somewhere.
Okay, but you have a driveway?
Correct.
Okay. What's your objection to this?
My objection was just checking in to make sure that if you guys did issue a 4-foot, the variance for the 4 feet, it kind of sets a precedence. I don't know if that now becomes a 4-foot variance along my side.
No,
And
not
that would
at
be
all.
my biggest
It's,
concern.
if you're asking that question, there's no precedent set by this. It applies only to this specific property and no others. If you came in tomorrow wanting the same relief, it's a different property. We'd have to hear the case and decide the case separately. So there's no precedent
That would be my biggest.
set.
Yeah, that's all.
We're only looking at this property.
I just look at 416 where they have a very large yard and yet they have their driveway up against the property line on the other side.
Yeah, they have a big yard on the
They have a
road.
big yard next to you, but yet they put their driveway on the property line next to 418, so.
But that was, when he was there, that was there.
Yeah, but somebody put it there.
Right.
They could have put it on the other
They were
side.
family.
I understand.
Oh,
Well,
these
maybe
two
they
were
weren't.
Those two were family.
They could have been, but so what? They could have put it on the other side. So, anyway, it's just one of those things. It's a tough street. You might get 2-car parking on the street in front of it. I don't know. If you look at the, most of the township has off-street parking, 45 feet, to maybe 3 cars, depending upon the size of the car. But anyway, but your main objection is that he can't meet the 4-foot side yards. If he met the 4-foot side yard, he wouldn't be here, because we wouldn't be here.
Correct, absolutely.
I mean, the other question is I don't see any stakes out there to know exactly where the property lines are. I mean, how do you know exactly where that property
That'll be
line
their
is?
responsibility.
That's-
I mean, they've got to get a survey.
Yeah, I understand.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, curb cutout just came out of nowhere, just bringing that up too.
We filed a permit for that. That was approved to the township.
No, for sure, it gets approved, but but my question is, how do you get a curb cut out without a driveway approval? Because what's the curb cut out?
I don't think anybody here knows that answer.
Yeah, that's a
We just have to be concerned with the driveway.
to reiterate, in our case for off-street parking, I understand what you're saying. For us and the prospective buyer for our home, off-street parking is safer for the person unloading and loading kids in and out of the street is not safe for people coming down the street there. It's a tight road as it is, so we want to be able to offer somebody to pull in the driveway, unload their kids, unload their groceries, and not have the worry to be hit by a car out in the street.
We all know how hard it is getting a stroller out of a car, right, and especially on a busier street. So it helps with the desirability of the property and the marketability of the property and for the family that's going to move in there as well.
Any questions? No further questions?
No. I understand you want to build this driveway for the safety of the people who are going to move into the house. What about the safety of his kids and playing on the porch and, you know, kids are kids and jumping over the porch and the car's right there. That's what I'm concerned about. His kid's safety, because he's already lived there, not the safety of the people who live there. Potentially.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that is an unknown. I mean, there could be anybody who comes down any street and runs into someone's front grass,
No,
right?
no.
Is this going to be a homeowner that will be pulling into this driveway regularly? They will,
Sure.
right? They will. Will there be, right? But that doesn't mean there's going to necessarily be an accident.
I'm just looking at it and seeing, at least on this stretch of houses, everybody seems to have a driveway. And the desirability of this house without a driveway seems to go down, which seems to have some negative impact on the community if it doesn't have a driveway that everybody else has. So it seems like it'd be a less desirable house.
Can I make a comment on that?
You may.
When we do look at properties to acquire through sheriff sale, we hold a weighted value to driveways versus properties that don't have driveways to determine the actual price that we can acquire the property so the business can be successful and that we can make sure that the renovations all happen within these properties. So in this specific property, we took a bet to say, hey, we can probably put a driveway in here, and that affects the overall acquisition cost, renovation cost, final sale price of the property as well. There's a weighted value that we put into our calculations whenever we acquire properties just like this. That goes into the.
I have to say this, with respect to that,
Sorry,
excuse me,
sorry.
I have to say this with respect to that.
Yes.
You have the burden to understand what the zoning and other ordinances are.
Oh, we totally do.
So you take that risk.
Oh, 100%.
So
Yeah.
if the driveway is not there
Yeah.
and it is not permitted, that's your risk.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't disagree with that for a moment. My point is, right, we take into consideration the valuation of a driveway versus a non-driveway property. So we've done enough of these to understand that.
Well,
And as you were speaking on, referencing these other properties, in terms of valuations, this property will be a lesser value in the neighborhood, lesser value in the community without a driveway. With a driveway, this property will be more or less an equal to 416, 418, 420. In fact, 412 for the gentleman sitting next to me as well, in relation to what you were saying in terms of valuation.
right, but you also have to understand that if a house is not legally permitted for something, you shouldn't be taking that into account in your investment evaluation of the property. So you had a comment, sir?
Sorry, I apologize for interrupting you. So that's where I get confused. Is it about, we're going back and forth here. One side where we speak, where it's safety and what's safest, and then really what it comes down to is the driveway is for the value of the home. So you can sell the home for a higher value. Because after you guys sell it, the safety is off your guys' hands.
Well, I do think that there is a legitimate issue with respect to if you're unloading young children, as I did for many years, it's easier if you're in your driveway rather than out on the street like Manor Avenue.
Agreed.
And I think that is safer.
Agreed. I have a driveway. I also unload my kids on the street when we have a car in the driveway and I have the kids. I only have the one car driveway. So I unload the kids on the street as well and understand that safety part. But when the house was purchased and there's a 4-foot variance in place, so this doesn't, so then the safety isn't on my side now, where I have to worry about the safety of my kids coming out into a potential another now roadway that comes down.
Well, don't overblow it. It's a one-car driveway. Let's not overblow what it is. It's a one-car driveway. I mean, you've got Manor Avenue there, which has a lot of traffic on it, so you have to be diligent where you live, just because you're right up on the street.
For sure, and there's also a parking lot across the street.
So, I know, and a park and everything else, so I do appreciate that. Do we have any further questions from the board?
No?
Mr. Daly?
No, just, I agree with the point you made, Mr. Chairman, that, if possible, a 9, like a 9-foot wide space would be preferable. I understand, your concerns are about, intrusion on your property and that kind of thing, just the closeness of the proximity of a potentially large car pulling into a narrow space with your kids around.
I'm not there, that's all.
Yeah.
Just not there.
Understood, that's, anything further?
Nope.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, to deny an application or for variance, to deny variance from Plymouth Township zoning ordinance number 342 as amended, Article 19, Section 1908C, to allow installation of an asphalt driveway up to the property line where a minimum 4-foot setback is required at the property located at 408 Manor Avenue in C Residential Zoning District.
Can we have a second?
I second it.
Mr. Higgins?
In favor?
Mr. Daly?
In favor.
Mr. Aprile?
In favor.
Chair votes no. So, it's 3-1. So, I appreciate what you've done to the house. I think it looks great. And, like I said to you, you had to take that into account when you bought the house. Thank you. Thanks for coming out, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nothing wrong with it.